The day started like any other Monday. I logged into the company team call expecting another routine project update. Instead, my director seemed unusually confident. The project we had spent nearly 2 years developing was finally entering its most profitable phase, and senior executives were attending the meeting. As the presentation began, he praised several team members for their contributions. Then his attention shifted toward me. The smile on his face instantly made me uneasy because I knew something was coming. Without warning, he began criticizing my work in front of everyone. He claimed I'd become a liability to the team and suggested that my role was no longer necessary. Several coworkers lowered their eyes while others stared at their screens in uncomfortable silence. Then he smirked and delivered the sentence that would change everything. He told me not to embarrass myself again and ordered me to clear my desk before lunch. The call ended with him acting as if he had won some personal battle. I packed my belongings quietly and walked out without saying a word. What nobody knew was that I had spent the last 18 months repeatedly warning management about serious flaws in the company data infrastructure. During a previous server failure, I personally created a secure backup system after discovering that critical project files were vulnerable. I documented everything and sent multiple reports to leadership. Most were ignored because the director insisted the existing systems were fine. To protect the company, I maintained the backup process myself and kept detailed recovery instructions in accordance with company policy. As I drove home, my phone remained silent. No one called to ask questions. No one checked whether my responsibilities had been transferred. It became painfully obvious that they believed I was completely replaceable. For the first time in years, I felt disappointed rather than angry. I had given everything to that company. Late that afternoon, I sat in my living room trying to process what had happened. Then my phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed the company headquarters. When I answered, the voice on the other end sounded nervous. A senior manager asked if I knew anything about missing project files. Apparently, a major synchronization error had corrupted critical data connected to the upcoming product launch. The development team had spent hours trying to recover the information without success. My former director assured everyone that backups existed, but nobody could locate them. The manager hesitated before asking whether I had access to any recovery systems. I explained that the backup process had been documented multiple times and that I had repeatedly requested additional support. There was a long silence before he admitted that nobody knew how the system worked. The manager asked if I could join an emergency meeting. When I entered the video call later that evening, the atmosphere was completely different from the one earlier that day. The same executives who had watched my humiliation now looked genuinely worried. My former director appeared pale and exhausted. As the discussion continued, executives learned that the corrupted files represented nearly 2 years of development work tied to contracts worth millions of dollars. Every minute increased the financial risk. The director attempted to shift blame, claiming documentation was unclear. But executives quickly discovered emails proving that multiple warnings had been ignored. One executive asked who had created the recovery system in the first place. Several heads slowly turned toward me. For the first time all day, nobody was laughing. The boardroom remained occupied late into the night as technical teams searched desperately for solutions. Finally, an executive asked the question that changed everything. Where's the backup? I calmly explained that the data was secure and recoverable. Relief spread across the meeting immediately. However, recovering the information required following procedures that only I fully understood because management had refused to train additional staff. Within hours, the data was restored and the project was saved. The next morning, an internal investigation began. Executives reviewed months of ignored reports and discovered a pattern of negligence. My former director had repeatedly dismissed legitimate concerns while taking credit for work completed by others. The evidence became impossible to deny. By the end of the week, he was no longer employed by the company. Several leadership processes were completely restructured to prevent similar failures in the future. A few days later, I received a call from the company president. He apologized for the way I had been treated and acknowledged that the crisis would have become a financial disaster without my efforts. He offered me a new position with greater authority, direct executive reporting, and a significantly higher salary. More importantly, the role would allow me to implement the improvements I had been recommending for years. Looking back, the most satisfying part was not the promotion or the recognition. It was watching the truth finally surface. The director believed public humiliation would make him look powerful. Instead, his own decisions exposed everything he had tried to hide. The lesson stayed with me long after the incident ended. Respect is earned through leadership, not intimidation. And sometimes, the person everyone underestimates is the one quietly holding the key to saving everything. The man who told me to clear my desk before lunch thought my career was over. 7 hours later, executives were asking where the backup was, and the answer changed every life in that boardroom. The same key he mocked became the only thing standing between the company and disaster.